Hey guys, it's me. Wanted to give you a little bit of an instruction on this next section we're about to enter into together. Before we do that, I just want to give you guys an update. I'm, by the way, in my lovely part of the community I live in Greater Vancouver. Stir coffee, delicious. As you can see, it's nice here. I'm even in a t-shirt. I wanted to give you guys a quick update on where you guys stand in terms of grading. I just have this real easy philosophy when it comes to class and grading. And for me, if you're doing the work, you're getting the grades. So you're both situated at like 100%. Now, I have not gone through your presentations yet. I plan on doing that later on at the end of this weekend. But just so you know, you guys are doing a great job. So as long as you guys keep up with your answering the questions and your reading, you guys should be just great. The section we're going to enter into now takes a swivel in the civil rights movement. Last time you guys were going through the material, we looked mostly at the early civil rights movement. I look at that as some of the most virtuous material. It's very Sermon on the Mount. It is how to take injustice but also expose injustice through the evils of it. Where we're going to swivel over to is another iteration of the social justice and of the civil rights movement in particular. And this is going to be highlighting another movement primarily known through the lens of Malcolm X. He would be the other great figure in the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s. Now, unlike Dr. King, Malcolm X has very different philosophy. And when you learn about his life, you'll see a lot of why he has that. He is a tragic figure in many ways because growing up in rural Nebraska, parents were Christians, but father died mysteriously, almost certainly was murdered, as he was a social activist long before that was acceptable in the U.S. Mother ended up having to raise a lot of kids on her own, went through a mental breakdown, had to be institutionalized. Malcolm had to be moved around from different relatives. Even in a primarily white school in Michigan, he was told when he expressed that he wanted to go into law that's something that black children can never actually aspire to. So you can imagine the angst he has within himself when he's going through this. So this is a bit of his background. He'll end up getting moving to Boston. He'll end up getting into crime. He'll end up in jail. And it's in jail that he'll have a profound experience where he encounters the teachings of the Nation of Islam. And what that was a unique group that was actually advocating for civil rights in the Detroit and Chicago area, so very much the Midwest. But Malcolm was very intelligent. He spent every hour that he was awake reading. And he became a fast disciple of this. There was a man named Elijah Muhammad, and he was a brilliant, but also very influential leader of this small but growing civil rights movement. I'm just moving to the side. Sorry about that. And so anyway, he's going to become a disciple while in prison. When he gets released, he's going to move to Chicago. And he's going to join Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah Muhammad sees his talents and skills, his oratory talents, and he's going to very quickly use him to found new chapters of this movement that at first only ran about 500. By the time Malcolm X is at his height, it's going to run in the tens and tens of thousands around the country. They'll be starting new chapters, almost like church planting, these mosques. Now, they were kind of Islamic, but they weren't at the same time because they were like almost a unique branch. Some might even call it, kind of like a cult of Islam, but very much saw the plight of the African American as something that was unacceptable. But their response was essentially to not let other people push you around. So you'll see Malcolm X will change his name was not X, but X is what he called himself because his slave name was what his masters gave him. And so he called himself Malcolm X, the X to represent the lost name he had from his African heritage. but he'll be a phenomenally influential, very talented speaker. I'm really interested to hear your guys' perspective. He is so charismatic that when you hear him speak and you look at his videos, you will find that he is engaging, very engaging. Now, there's lots about his message that I will disagree with, and yet I will find him just a fascinating figure, one of those unique characters in American history. I sometimes will put up Dr. King speaking versus Malcolm X speaking publicly, and you'll find, in my opinion, I'd like to hear your opinion, as great a speaker as Dr. King is, he's very much a pastor. He prepares his messages and his sermons, and he delivers them. They're thought through, they're edited. Malcolm X just gets up and talks, and he's brilliant and very influential. You're going to see a lot about his history, his life, his tragedy. He'll die very young, as Dr. King will, and in both cases there'll be murder involved. But they're going to show a fundamental different approach to the civil rights movement, where Dr. King will promote nonviolent resistance. Malcolm X will essentially say, hey, listen, if people want to leave you alone, great. If people want to cause you harm, you cause harm back. And so we'll see an evolution of his thoughts. But the genesis of his thoughts come from someone named Marcus Garvey, and he was a black philosopher from the Caribbean decades before Malcolm X's life. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you look at some videos. They'll look at Marcus's philosophy, kind of give you the basis of where he's coming from, see some biography on Malcolm X and his early life, see how he evolved as a individual and as a leader, and see sort of the tragic end of his story, because you'll find that as much as he promoted the Nation of Islam, there'll be jealousy from Elijah Muhammad, who was really the head of the movement, but really Malcolm X was the influence. And that will lead to a messy divorce and ultimately to his murder. I have two questions for you to look at based on both your readings and your videos. So take that. That should be enough material for the next week. There'll be a lot more light on the videos compared to the last time we talked together. Like I said, I will get back to your videos. And yeah, love where we're at. We're kind of in the home stretch. So from here on out, we're going to really move quickly through up until the modern times, because I do want to get to really from the 90s on how the civil rights movement and issues of racism have impacted our society. And so before we can do that, we have to get through this section with Malcolm X and also a little bit with the Black Panthers. So we'll talk about that next time. If you have any questions, write me, text me. I hope you guys are well.